Today on What's Next.
We're just doing our best to grow locally, cleaned, fresh produce that can be at your doorstep the next day, here locally without having to ship it across the world.
1 out of 5 people will be over the age of 65. And it's a period full of promise, but also peril.
Don't stop doing things. You have a little setback. Don't give it up totally.
Hello, I'm Mark Middleton, and welcome into Growing Boulder's What's Next. Because the opportunity for what's next, the options for what's next are greater now than ever. There is now an entirely new life stage that has never before existed, and it's really great news for everyone of every age. It's an opportunity for decades of happy and healthy aging beyond what's considered normal retirement age. And at Growing Boulder, we meet people every day who are discovering their life's passion and purpose in their 50s, 60s, 80s, and even their 90s. Consider this: modern man has been on the planet for about 300,000 years, and for 99.9% of that time, the average life expectancy at birth has been about 18 years. In 1900, the life expectancy in the U.S. was only 49. Today, the average life expectancy at birth in the U.S. is about 78 years old, but look at what's coming. A woman who is 65 years old today has a 25% chance of reaching 100, and a baby who's born today has a 50% chance of reaching 100. The fastest growing age group in the country today is now those over 85 years old, and in the next 30 years, the number of nonagenarians, those in their 90s, will quadruple, and the number of centenarians, those in their 100s, will grow eightfold. Welcome to the longevity revolution. Of course, for most of us, it's not about how long we're going to live, it's about how well we're able to live. It's all about maintaining a quality of life, and advancements in technology and medicine and healthcare are important, but studies show that the most important keys to active longevity are the daily lifestyle choices that we all make. One community that has always been at the forefront of the health and well-being movement for older adults is the Villages, Florida. The world's largest 50-plus community is filled with active adults, so the developer has undertaken a big, bold, and ambitious project to create a local food system to fuel that activity. Here's a rare look inside the Villages Grown. The future of farming is being imagined, engineered, and implemented inside a series of greenhouses in the Villages, Florida. The Villages Grown is an indoor hydroponic farm with cutting-edge technology and proprietary methodology in what's known as controlled environment agriculture. State-of-the-art technology constantly monitors and adjusts the environment through the use of shade screens, wet walls, heat extraction fans, and more.
One of the things that's unique inside of a greenhouse is our ability to manipulate the environment to exactly what the crops need. So from nutrients to temperature, humidity, air, all of it, we have the opportunity that crops that want something different, we can do that.
The Villages Grown uses NFT, or nutrient film technique, to grow crops in a soilless medium.
So basically what we're doing is we're flowing a very small stream of water that's nutrient rich across the roots of the plant and giving it everything it needs so it doesn't have to put a lot of energy into its root system.
So we're not talking about lots of water. We're talking about that much water passing down each one of these channels at any given time.
Since farmers are paid for the weight of their crops and not the nutrient value, U.S. crop yields have more than tripled since the 1950s through the use of genetically modified organisms, petrochemical fertilizers, herbicides, and fungicides. As a result, most produce grown today has far fewer vitamins and minerals and significantly less nutritional value than it did decades ago. Major distribution inefficiencies also contribute to nutrient decline. Supposed fresh produce has traveled on average 1,500 miles to get to our plate. Getting it to consumers can take weeks, resulting in the loss of up to 80% of its nutrients, much of its flavor, and a dramatic reduction in its shelf life.
In order to provide the healthiest, most nutrient-dense item to the consumer, it's important to us to be able to harvest and have that product to the consumer's plate within 24 to 48 hours.
It's just a farm, and we're just doing our best to grow locally, cleaned, fresh produce that can be on at your doorstep the next day, here locally, without having to ship it across the world or across the country.
Microgreens, the phase in a plant's life cycle after a sprout, are a featured crop. They're nutrient dense and rich in a naturally occurring phytochemical that's a proven and powerful cancer fighter.
A bowl of broccoli microgreens are 40 bowls of cooked microwaved broccoli, right? So it changes the way that we consume food. It changes the way we think about food when we know that we can have such a selection so local to us. So local healthy eating.
The Villages is filled with residents living their best lives. The community is well known for not just responding to the changing needs and desires of its residents, but for actively anticipating them, providing high-quality food to fuel active lifestyles and support overall health and well-being aligns perfectly with the vision that has resulted in the Villages becoming the largest active adult community in the world. While the vision is hyperlocal for now, the Villages Grown is creating a community-based model for sustainable wellness that's a blueprint for the local food system of the future.
By the time we finish this build out, we'll be producing over 100,000 heads of lettuce a week, over 8,000 pounds of herbs a week, over 8,000 pounds of microgreens a week, 2,000 some pounds of tomatoes each week. Every single week, I've joked with my team, the 10-year vision being that if it doesn't fly, walk, or swim, it's going to come from us.
Really is an amazing initiative. And of course, when a fresh head of lettuce has to travel 1,500 miles from California to get to Florida over the course of a week, requiring fossil fuels to get here and losing nutrition and taste all along the way, I think it's pretty safe to say that our food system is broken. And that's just produce that's coming from California. In fact, more than half of all the fruits and vegetables that we eat here in the U.S. are imported from other countries. But here's the real tragedy. Recent studies revealed that 80 million tons of food is wasted each and every year in the United States. That's almost 40% of the entire U.S. food supply. And the majority of that waste occurs on the farm, where 33% of all food that's grown is left unharvested because of weather and pest, disease, low market prices, and high labor costs. At the same time, nearly 50 million people all across America suffer from food insecurity. The Villages Grown is eliminating that waste. We all know we can grow healthy food in our backyard, but you know, who really does it? The Villages Grown is basically creating a backyard for a community of over 150,000 residents. And if they can do it, other communities can do it as well. What kind of changes are ahead, and how might we prepare for them?
Well, I think the single biggest one that we should all anticipate is that we will be working longer.
Welcome back to Growing Boulder's What's Next. I'm Mark Middleton. You know, back in the 60s, demographers first began describing the baby boomer generation, 78 million strong, as a pig going through a python, an unprecedented demographic bulge that would transform every aspect of society as it aged. And they were right. From an explosion in the sale of diapers and toys and candy, washing machines, records, clothing, gyms, movie theaters, the construction of new schools, suburbs, and highways, environmentalism, civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, and now they're beginning to change the culture of aging as we reach a major milestone that's being called super age. And to better understand super age, we turn to one of the world's preeminent demographic futurists and the author of The Super Age, a guy by the name of Bradley Sherman.
it represents the first time in human history where at least 1 out of 5 people will be over the age of 65. And shortly after we pass that threshold, we move into a period where there'll be more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 18. So this is going to radically transform how we live, how we govern ourselves, how our economy functions. And it's a period full of promise, but also peril if we don't take advantage of the changes that are here for us today.
So what do you see coming? What kind of changes are ahead, and how might we prepare for them?
Well, I think the single biggest one that we should all anticipate is that we will be working longer. And believe it or not, a growing number of people are doing this by choice, not necessarily by necessity. Working longer has been proven to show improved financial health, but also physical health, mental health, and greater levels of cognition. Perhaps the best thing that we can expect from this is greater social cohesion. When we are all working and we are all rowing roughly in the same direction, we see a community, a country come tighter together, much like we saw in the 1950s.
What's the potential danger here if we don't pay attention to what you've foreseen?
The single greatest threat to older people in America right now is the social welfare system falling apart. And if we do nothing, if we say, you know what, retiring at 65, that's cool. If we insist that we want to live off government pension for 30, 40 years, we will very quickly see that system fall apart. A lot of those social welfare programs that we really hold sacrosanct will no longer be able to operate.
Let's go the other direction so we don't leave people with a bad taste in their mouth. If we do everything right, if we leverage all of these opportunities, if we make the right choices, tell me how good it can be for us in the future.
What we see in the very positive, the best case scenarios, because people are working longer, they stay healthier. We lower healthcare costs across the board, across the nation. We start to see greater investments in new technologies and infrastructure that are considerate of our very diverse needs over the course of a lifespan. And it's a bit like choosing to jump out of a plane with a parachute or not. We will eventually start to slow our growth because we are having fewer populations year after year. So the dystopian approach is to jump from the plane without a parachute. The utopian approach is to jump with one in mind, working longer, staying connected, staying active, being part of the greater good.
A whole lot to think about as the super age approaches the U.S. by the year 2030. A massive demographic shift that will challenge every institution that we have. And, you know, it's easy to just sit back and see what happens, to hope that our healthcare and Social Security programs don't collapse. But, you know, I prefer Sherman's proactive utopian view. Welcome back to What's Next. We've been talking today about longevity, and specifically active longevity, happy and healthy longevity, because who's going to really get excited about the alternative? So how do we increase our health span to match our lifespan? A big part of that equation is adding an active lifestyle to great primary health care. Pete Chiarlante and Grace Long are two ordinary people in their 70s who are certainly living extraordinary lives. They're both retired, but neither is sitting back and withdrawing from life. They're out and about every day. They're playing sports and traveling and socializing. Their active lifestyle aligns perfectly with the mission of Advent Health Well 65 Plus, which is a new healthcare model designed specifically for seniors, one that solves the major issues we all have with our primary care providers. We can't get in to see our doctor, we don't have enough time with our doctor, and we have to run all over town to see other healthcare professionals and to get tests and services that we ought to be able to get in one place. The stuff that Well 65 Plus calls whole person care.
I try to do something every day to raise my heart rate, to expend energy.
The things I like to do active-wise are mountain biking, water skiing, wakeboarding, jet skiing, snow skiing, and be active in my community. We play pickleball. That's another one we do.
The list of physical activities that Pete Cherlante and his wife Grace engage in goes on, and ageist culture would lead most to believe that your 70s are a time to withdraw from life, just to relax. But not for Pete and Grace. A life of adventure is all they've ever known.
When we first met, it was like meeting my alter ego, my soulmate, because we both drove Volkswagen 68 Beetles. We both played racquetball and we both skied.
Scuba
divers. And it was like, well, everything I brought up, he did. Now it's still the same.
She expels a tremendous amount of energy. So it is great to feed on that energy.
He has to remind me sometimes that how old I am. Like I went back to roller skating. You're gonna hurt something. Oh well, I want to do it.
Grace and Pete have crafted a routine for healthy aging, which they have paired with top-notch primary care specifically designed for older adults at Advent Health Well 65 Plus.
They really focus on seniors. They have that attention. They have that definite understanding of who you are and your age and what your needs may be. And that's what I found when I came here.
Advent Health Well 65 Plus focuses on whole person care, specifically for adults over 65. They give their patients more time with their doctors, more availability for appointments, and a care team that includes care coordinators, registered nurses, pharmacists, and social workers. The end result is a personal relationship in which the patient gets individualized care specific to their lifestyle, all in one location.
They really understand who you are. We are fairly healthy, but I have noticed that like over the last 6 years or so that things pop up more frequently than they used to. But they're there for you when you need it. A quick phone call, a quick appointment, or even getting back to you on the phone if they need to, and they do.
Pete and Grace still spend part of their time in Pennsylvania, but the personalized care that they've received at their Well 65 Plus practice has fit so well with their lifestyle that they plan their appointments to align with the months that they're in Florida. Their advice to others: try out a Well 65 Plus practice for yourself and embrace the opportunity to stay active in your later years.
Don't stop doing things. Don't give up. Don't, because you can't, you have a little setback and you stop doing a sport, don't give it up totally. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I don't have any plans to slow down.
Pete and Grace are showing us all what's possible, and of course, you don't have to be a water skier or even an athlete of any kind. Just find a way to keep active that you enjoy and take care of yourself with exceptional primary health care, the kind they find at Advent Health Well 65 Plus. There are, by the way, 9 convenient locations all across Central Florida and growing. And to learn more, to find a location near you, just visit adventhealth.com. All right, let's take a quick look at some Boulder trivia. A recent study by AgeWave asked, at what age do the majority of Americans now consider to be old? How about you? Get thinking, and we'll see if it matched the results of this landmark study right after the break. Welcome back to What's Next. Before the break, we asked, what age is now considered to be old by the majority of Americans? The answer, 80 years old. The days of when people considered 60 to be old age have dramatically changed. Our culture of aging does continue to shift, and that is good news. All right, it's time now for Your Take, where we check in with our more than 1 million social media followers with a question of the week. And this week we ask, what is one way that increased longevity might benefit society? Lori says older workers are reliable and productive, and most businesses will be glad to have them. Caroline says increased longevity gives wisdom, confidence, and hope to the younger generation that if they work hard, they can attain their dreams. And finally, S. Hill says mentoring the next generation with shared experience and wisdom. We can serve as role models, teach patience, resilience, and kindness. And if I may, I'd like to leave you with the final stanza of a very long poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He wrote it when he was 68 years old for the 50th anniversary of his college graduation. It's called Morituri Salutamus, which is a Latin title taken from the famous gladiator phrase, "Those who are about to die salute you." It's all about living boldly. It's an encouragement for the younger generation to rise up and contribute, and for the old to not yet surrender. If you like poetry, you should check it out, but here is the final stanza. For age is opportunity no less than youth itself, though in another dress. And as the evening twilight fades away, the sky is filled with stars, invisible by day. In other words, if we're paying attention, we can see things as we age that we miss when we're younger. Important things, opportunities to gain wisdom, opportunities for a what's next. We'll see you next time.